How y'all doing? I'm the Watchman, Joshua Wiley, and I just wanted to let y'all know, start off beforehand, let's start with a quick word of prayer. Lord, please let me disappear and allow your Holy Spirit to fill me up. In your son's precious name we daily pray. Amen. Anyway, I was just thinking, and I'm always speaking in different churches, wherever acts, in different states. And so if you would like me to come speak at your church, you know, I don't charge, I can't charge. You know, the word is freely given to me, so it must be freely given back out, if we can say it that way. But anyway, just inbox me, contact me, and we can set it up. I know I'm changing the title of this series. The title of the series on the other ones was the day that the Illuminati, the Antichrist, and Satan hates. Well, I'm going to switch it around a little bit to the reason why Satan, the Antichrist, and the Illuminati hate the 7-day Sabbath. I'm going to change it up to that. Because I don't want people, you know, sometimes people say, oh, those conspiracy theorists always talking about the Illuminati. Let me give you the reason why I do post things on the Illuminati, things of that nature. When you look at the story, let's take the story of Gideon, for example. Gideon, when he had 10,000 men, God told him, go down to the river and get something to drink from the river. Drink some water from the river. Anyway, you know, I'm paraphrasing. But anyway, all the men that sat there and drunk like this, God said, send them home. But the men who drunk like this, who kept their eyes on their enemy, God said, those are the men I want to take to war. Take those men to war with you. And beloved, too many times nowadays, too many Christians are taking their eyes off their enemy. You know, the Illuminati, this group of men and women who are just a sect, are nothing but the devil's watchhounds. He has to have human agents to do his bidding also. The same way God has human agents to do his bidding, it's the same way Satan has to have human agents to do his bidding. You know, Ephesians 6:12, the word says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the rulers of the wickedness of this world in high places, meaning like governors, kings, things of that nature. So, beloved, let's not get it twisted and believe we're just battling angels. These and you know, fallen angels we call demons. These demons have human agents, and they call themselves the Illuminati, which means the enlightened ones, after the light bearer, Lucifer. Yes, that's where the name Illuminati comes from. They feel that he illuminated them. You know, when they feel like he set man free when he taught Eve to bite the apple. That's where they get the name the enlightened ones. That's why Freemasons have aprons on during the ceremony. Because when God saw, remember when Adam and Eve sinned and they saw they were naked and they tried to put fig leaves to cover them, and God made them aprons out of lamb skin. Well, I mean, they made aprons out of fig leaves, but God made them, cover them with lamb skin. Well, the Freemasons and them go back to the aprons of fig leaves because they say they rather keep it how Lucifer freed them instead of wearing the righteousness of God, the righteousness of Christ. You know, instead of being covered by the lamb. That's what that signified when God killed the lamb to cover Adam and Eve. You know, that signified Jesus covering the sins of mankind. But anyway, so that is the reason why I do educate with the Illuminati. You have to keep your eyes on the enemy and what they're doing with food and all sorts of things. And the main thing, the grand deception, when I get some free time, you know, I do work. It seems like always at work. But anyway, when I do get some free time, I will be doing a documentary called The Grand Deception of Them All. And that is the devil changing God's law. The devil changing God's law, thus making it null and void. But anyway, the Lord, even in dealing with this subject, you know, I've been even learning more about the Sabbath, the 7-day Sabbath. And I'm telling you, if you've watched the first two, in this one, I definitely, the Lord is blessed with some definite mighty stuff to share. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. Now, I said in part 2 that there were some things I was going to discuss dealing with the sanctuary and the Sabbath. And I'm going to touch on this real quick before I get into the other good stuff. Anyway, Daniel 8. Daniel 8 is probably one of the most underrated prophecies in the Bible. The one prophecy that the devil doesn't want you to hear. Because remember, the devil tried to take heaven by force. He tried to take heaven physically. Got kicked out. Got kicked out. Him and his fallen angels got kicked out. That's all found in Revelation chapter 12. He gets kicked out. And he realized what he could not do physically, he created a spiritual power to do spiritually. Let me say that again. What he could not do physically, he created a spiritual power to do spiritually. And that is where the Roman Catholic Church comes in, known as the beast, known as the little horn power. This little horn power. Now Daniel 8, now when you go to Daniel 8 and verse 9, we're going to skip to verse 9, where it talks about this little horn power. Now you might say, Josh, what does this have to do with the 7-day Sabbath? God's law. When I say, let's see what this has to do with God's law in the sanctuary. Start at verse 9. It says, and out of one of them, now remember I said what he could not do physically, he wanted to take heaven physically. Where's God's throne located at in heaven? It's in his heavenly sanctuary, in the most holy place. Okay, so if the devil wants to take God's throne, where's his point of attack once he got to heaven? It's in the sanctuary. So what he could not do physically, he has this spiritual power to do it spiritually. How can this spiritual power bring down heaven spiritually? By attacking the principles of heaven. By attacking the very principles of heaven. Let's look at it. As a matter of fact, I did a whole series on it called The Sanctuary Cast Down. The Sanctuary Cast Down. Anyway, verse 9 says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. Even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts. Who's the prince of heaven? Christ. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Verse 12, and a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Now, beloved, this is talking about definitely what you're called the Dark Ages. How did, not to get in it, but I'm going to summarize real quick. How did the Catholic Church cast down the sanctuary, which the Bible also calls the truth? How did he cast it down to the ground? Let's look at some of the principles of the sanctuary real quick. Let's look at baptism. Baptism by immersion. Well, what did the Catholic Church do to take away that principle of heaven? They brought in sprinkling. Because what does immersion signify? Baptism by immersion signifies the death of the old. You go into the watery grave. Really, it's like a womb. Where were you? In the mother's womb is nothing but water, fluid. So baptism is like going back into the womb. You go into a watery grave. The old man dies, and when the priest brings you up out, when the preacher brings you up out the water, the new man comes up. So when he brings you into the watery grave, the old man dies, and the new man comes up. It's like you're coming out of a fresh womb. You're born again. So to kill that, they came up with just sprinkling. Let me just sprinkle some water on it. Let me just hit you with a little droplets. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So it takes away, they try to destroy that principle. How do they destroy the principle of the blood of the Lamb? The one-time sacrifice of the Lamb of God. Jesus only had to die once. How do they kill that? They do that with Mass. They literally say they're crucifying Christ every week during Mass. Yes, they do, which is very sad. It's almost like mocking. In the way when you pull back the veil and you see the devil and his angels behind it, behind it, you can actually see it's almost like the devil bragging and boasting every week what he did to Christ. But in essence, they're saying, by doing a weekly mass, they're saying that they're crucifying Christ afresh every week. That's how you destroy the altar sacrifice, which is the first piece of furniture you walk into in the Old Testament sanctuary. That's how they brought down the principle of the table of showbread, which is in the sanctuary. That's the Bible. How did they take away the Bible? Easily. You were killed if you had one. That's just simply, look in the history books. You over from 50 million to 200 million Christians were crucified and killed in many different ways just for having a Bible. They tried, they were so mad at Wycliffe, John Wycliffe. Google this, look this up. What I say, the truth loves investigation. They were so mad at John Wycliffe for putting the Bible in English for the common person to read it, that because they couldn't kill him, they went, dug back up his bones, burned his bones, and put his ashes, I believe it was the Rhine River, and put his ashes in the river. In a way, it was like they were sending him out to the world. Now he went worldwide. But that's how much hatred they had for John Wycliffe for giving this to the people. All the Bibles were in Latin, and the common people couldn't read Latin for many years. And the priest was telling them all kinds of crazy stuff. That's when the doctrine of purgatory came about, you know, and indulgences where you can give them money and that pays for forgiveness. Wow. But that's how they did away with the principle of the Bible, the table of showbread, which is in the sanctuary. Now remember, Daniel 8, like verse 11 says, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. But beloved, I want to tell you, now remember I did a whole series on it called The Sanctuary, the papacy cast down in the sanctuary. And it's if you want to go in more detail on this, go look at that series. Go look at that series. But I'm just trying to summarize it real quick. How did God reestablish his sanctuary? All the reformers, the major reformers, brought back in a piece of these principles that was done away with. What am I saying? Okay. Like how I said earlier, how they did away with the Christ's one-time sacrifice. Well, Martin Luther brought this principle back to the people, back to God's church, when he came up with righteousness by faith. The one-time sacrifice of Christ, he believed, and that's what the basis of righteousness by faith is, that by Christ's one-time sacrifice, I am forgiven. I can be healed if I grab a hold of his blood and his one-time sacrifice. So that's how Martin Luther reestablished that. And of course, baptism, we look at the Wesley brothers, who John Wesley brought in Baptists and were big on baptism. You know, they brought the principle of immersion back into the church. And I hate that I don't have my paper, because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. And there was 3 Johns who brought back the different principle of the sanctuary. There was John Wesley, there was John Calvin, and there was John Smith. So I don't want to get them wrong. I don't want to get them confused. But these different reformers each brought a principle back to the sanctuary. And I brought up one of the reformers during the Reformation who brought a principle of the sanctuary back, and that was John Wycliffe. He brought, that's 4 Johns. He brought the Bible back to the people. He brought that principle back. You know, that's like the 7-branch candlestick, which stands for witnessing in your character. How did the Catholic Church destroy that principle of heaven? You would simply, if you talked about the Bible, pushed it in any way, you were killed, you were murdered. Who brought that back? Methodists, the Methodist Church. The Methodist Church, and I want to say through John Calvin or John Smith. But the Methodist Church, don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. It's one of the Johns though, you can quote me on that. But it was the Methodist Church who emphasized witnessing and being a character. So anyway, like I was stating in part 2, what does this say? I might say, okay, Josh, you said all that. What does this have to do with the law and Sabbath and the day they hate? Well, like I said in part 2, God's law, the Ten Commandments law, which was written on stone, was up under the Ark of the Covenant, inside the Ark itself. So to get to the Ten Commandments, to actually do away with them or change them, you got to move God off of his throne. Now the Ark sits under the mercy seat. The mercy seat is God's throne. You have to move God off the throne, I don't even like saying that, get into the mercy seat, get into the Ark, and then change God's law, which we know nobody is going to move God off of his throne. And like I stated in the second part, could that be why God put his law under his throne, to show that he's sitting on top and can't nobody move? I ask this question: who can move the Lord? That ends that discussion right there. But anyway, I wanted to reiterate that and to spark some food for thought on this prophecy, this wonderful prophecy found in Daniel 8, which the devil keeps hid from many people's mind. But anyway, the reason why Satan hates the Sabbath, the seventh-day Sabbath. Now remember, the first day of the week, which we call Sunday, which was named after the sun, Okay, and I know people say, well, Saturday is called Saturnalia. Yes, these were Greek names. And that is very important to know, that these were Greek names given. God didn't name the days. The only day that he gave a name was the Sabbath, Shabbat, the seventh day. The other days he gave numbers: first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, Sabbath, the seventh day. That was the only day that had a name. And these Greek names, because now there's people saying, oh, the seventh day, you're a Saturnalian because you worship on Saturn. No, the Greeks didn't make my religion. The Bible, the Ten Commandments existed way before the Greeks named the days on the calendar. Let me say it that way, because in Africa on Saturday, any child born on Saturday they call Kwame, child born on Shabbat, on the Sabbath. I didn't know that. That was a tidbit until you do your study, and that's only in certain parts of Africa. I want to say Kenya, but anyway, one of the reasons that this is one of the things I haven't touched on yet, but one of the reasons why the devil, the Antichrist, and the Illuminati hate the Sabbath is because it is one of God's sanctifying tools. Say, Josh, what do you mean? God's goal, when man sinned, that caused a split, a rift between him and us. So God wishes nothing more than for us to be able to stand back into his presence. And this is where the word sanctify means to be set apart. So this is when I say that the Sabbath is one of God's sanctifying tools, one of the tools that he used to set us apart from other people. Think about it. On the Sabbath, when it's kept the real way, we're called to only spend that day with God. Meaning, and the people say, well, what do you do? Don't you get bored? I'm talking about for real. I love the Sabbath because anything worldly, I break away from. And it's a time you spend with family, your family, friends, other Christians, fellowshipping, even with the kids, Friday night, because the Sabbath begins from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday. We make it special, a special day. We have fun, might play charades, Bible charades, there's many different things you can do. But it's just the point of spending time with the Lord, where you're only focused on spiritual, heavenly things. For 24 hours. God gave me 7 days. And he only asked for one day to spend with him, as a reminder to us of who he is, to keep it fresh in our minds that he is Creator, Lord of all things. Like I stated in the very first one, that's one of the main reasons why they hate the day, because it is a weekly reminder that God created everything, that the master they worship is not master, that Satan is not creator and king of anything. God is. Which now, when Christ died on the cross, he handed everything to Christ. But anyway, the Sabbath, let me get back to sanctifying tool. What I mean by this is, what I noticed, beloved, when the Sabbath is kept the right way, and things that are worldly, like say things that you might watch on TV, yeah, it might not be nothing bad with it, But if it ain't focusing on God, if it's not about God, what has a hold on you? I'm telling you, it helps you. If you don't think, you never realize how much something has a hold on you until you try to stop doing it. Boom, everything on like this. You never know how bad lusting is a part of your life until you stop trying to lust on women. I guarantee I've been there, and I've told you, like, you never know how much that thing has a hold on you until you try to stop. Until you try, just like smoking cigarettes. You never know how bad you got a smoking habit until you try to stop. You never know how bad you got a cursing, how bad you are at cursing until you try to stop. And that's just like, you never know how hard of a grip TV has on you until go 24 hours without your TV. And a lot of people are like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. All right, then do it. And you'll start to see how bad some, you know, you'll be thinking in your mind, oh man, Friday night is when such and such the good shows come on, or such and such, I'm telling you, or Saturday is college football day. I can't let go of college football. See, right there you'll be saying, I can't let go of that for you, God. How about I choose another day of the week that's more convenient for me? Like a day when, well, I can't do Sunday really, because I think about it, a lot of people who go to church on Sunday, which was a known fact pagan holiday called Solo Day. That's where the pagans worship the sun. Anyway, a lot of Sunday worship, go to church, go to a restaurant after, and then go watch the games. They're not sacrificing anything. You know, and that's the whole key, and the whole point is to spend 24 hours with God. And I'm telling you, it wasn't until I got older, until just recently, that I saw the beautiful logic behind it. It helps you see what has a hold on you in your life. Like, even with like Facebook, I started at first, I said, okay, I said on the Sabbath, I'm going to just see if I can go on the Sabbath without checking on my Facebook. And believe it or not, beloved, at first I'd be tempted every time I get online. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? You know, it was like, it was calling me. Josh! It was calling me, you know, and that's when I realized, okay, this thing has a more of a tighter grip than I realized. Then I said, okay, well, let me go 24 hours without, just off the internet, period. You know, YouTube videos, if it's not dealing with the Lord, I'm not going to look at it. Or just do, I'm telling you, you'll start to see what has a hold and a grip on your life. You know, I'm not going to no stores, you know, because it says, the commandment says don't work on the Sabbath. I have many God-fearing Sunday people who go to church on Sunday, who treat Sunday as the Sabbath, who also go to work on Sunday. You know, and they say, well, you know, God doesn't want me to starve. Trust me, I'm a 7-day Adventist. I've lost jobs over the Sabbath. And I'm not starving. Y'all could probably see you know, I try to keep a little healthy, but I'm not starving at all, you know. But it's like, what are you willing? And it was nothing to me to give up that job. I actually lost a girlfriend over me quitting jobs over the Sabbath. I kid you not. And it was nothing to me, and I do it again. And that's why the girl got mad. I won't mention her name, but that's why she got mad at me and got frustrated, because it was a stint. I think it was God letting me know that, hey, this person don't really love you. It was like 3 jobs back to back. The minute I was supposed to go on full time, you know, I worked through the temp service. The minute I'm supposed to go on full time, they're like, no, Josh. I was actually offered raises. We'll give you $2.35 more if you just work on Friday night. We'll give you Saturday off, Saturday morning, you can go to church, but Friday night. And I wouldn't do it. I'm like, nah, come on, you know, sometimes, come on, John. Just work on Friday night. We'll give you this raise, you know. They try to send the person that's cool, that I'm cool with, to talk to me too. But I wouldn't do it. And it was nothing, because I'm willing to sacrifice it all for God. That's how the Sabbath sanctifies. It lets you know, if you're not willing to sacrifice a job, you'll be like the rich young ruler when Jesus says, are you willing to just give it all away, then follow me? Can you lose your job over the Sabbath? It gets very quiet. Are you willing to? Then guess what, beloved? If you hesitate, if it's a fighting and you really can't do it, Because you think about your bills, you're thinking about your bills, child support, your children. And then my third question to you is, you don't think God can provide? I have way more than what I need. God is an awesome provider, I'm telling you. Awesome provider. I have way more than what I need. And I'm here to tell you, if you're afraid that you will lose that you won't be able to support your family, well, I need this job because I need support, then beloved, you care more about that job than pleasing God. That is how the Sabbath shows you. When it kept the right way, that's one of the ways it shows you what has a hold on your life or not. You know, going to the club, going out, going to the stores, going shopping. You know, you're not supposed to do any of that on the Sabbath. And some people can't not go 24 hours without giving the things of the world up. But really, when you look at the logic, God is using the Sabbath. He's using that to prepare you for heaven. You know? He's using that to prepare you. We don't know. We can't even imagine what heaven is going to be like. But anyway, back to the thing. And that's what makes Satan, the Illuminati, hate the Sabbath. Because the things that they try to trap you with, they try to keep you addicted to TV. To where you need it every day, all day. But if you're used to going 24 hours to give it up, beloved, I'm telling you, for real, once you start to fall in love with the Sabbath and you're keeping it the right way and you're giving it up for the Lord, those 24 hours just on purpose, it's nothing to give it up anytime. It doesn't have a hold on you. You know, all them things lose their grip on your life. And that's what the devil hates. That's what the Illuminati, because they want these things to have a hold on you permanently. And I'm telling you, once you're giving them up freely, like, and you love to it, you know, it ain't like you're complaining. Now, don't try to keep this out. You complain, man. You know, man, I ain't watch TV 24 hours and you hating it like you just want to break down, start crying. And everybody you come across, even to your kids, man, I can't wait till the Sabbath over. You doing more. You might as well just go on and not keep the Sabbath, because you're doing more against God than actually. You're not going to get no brownie points from the Lord, you know, when you keeping it like that, when you're not finding joy in it because of drugs. Why? Because your children are watching, and your friends, your family, and you're complaining about, you know, man, I can't wait till the sun go down, man, the game on, you know. No, you're pushing them away from the Sabbath also. You're doing more work against God than for God. You know, we're called to show the beauty of God's word, the beauty. And look what thought hits me as I sum it up. I'm ending. But this would hit me last night while I was driving around. Revelation 14, and it's talking about those who worship the beast in his image. Right? This is after when God comes and punishes the wicked. But check verse 11. Verse 11 says, Revelation 14 verse 11 says, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Why? And it hit me like a ton of bricks last night. Why don't these people have any rest who worship the beast and his image? The only way you can get rest, true rest, is by keeping the 7-day Sabbath. When you look at Exodus 20, starting at verse 8, the Sabbath commandment, it said, remember the Sabbath day, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that in them are his, and he rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. If you're not keeping God, this hit me like a ton of bricks last night. Rest. The first time the word, you know, I ain't gonna say the first time it's mentioned, but the word rest and Sabbath, when you look at Genesis, go all the way back to the creation week, go hand in hand. The first time God rested was on the Sabbath day. So the Sabbath and rest go hand in hand. So of course we read in Revelation 14 that everybody who worships the beast and the image of the beast have no rest. Why? Because they are not keeping God's law. God's rest, the rest of the Lord, is in the Sabbath. And where's the Sabbath located? In the law. The one thing that they're trying to tell you nowadays, oh, the law was done away with. The law was done away with. Yes. Do away with one of the only things written by the finger of God. That makes no sense at all. We keep everything else written by man. We'll even read a book called The Purpose-Driven Life, written by a preacher, you know, in California. But we'll keep all these other stuff. But the one thing written by the finger of God we'll do away with. But yes, could that be why everybody who worships the beast and his image have no rest? Is because they're not keeping Shabbat, which means rest, a holy rest unto God. Beloved, if you are stressed out in your life, you're worried, you're beat down, I mean, be honest with yourself. If you really don't have true peace, God-given peace, and you're not keeping the 7th-day Sabbath how it's supposed to be kept, just some food for thought. Maybe that's the reason. My brother in Atlanta, one of my closest best friends growing up, I told him he was going through some things and he was frustrated. I said, yo, I ain't gonna say my brother's name. I said, yo, give the Sabbath a try. Because he was already going to church. He was going to an apostolic church. I said, man, you're missing the Sabbath. I said, I guarantee the minute you start keeping the 7th-day Sabbath, a peace will come over you that's indescribable. And everything, and he gave it a try. I said, just give it a try. He gave it a try, and everything started falling together in his life. And eventually, shortly after, like 3 months, he was baptized into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I kid you not. That is why one of the reasons why the devil hates the 7th-day Sabbath. Not only does it let you know what has a hold on your life, because from you letting go of everything for 24 hours and just spending time with the Lord and your family, not only does it show you what does it help sanctify you, does it help get things that have holes and grips off of you, but it gives you true rest, God-given rest, God-given rest, you know, where you're not worried, you're not stressed out. You know, I'm not saying things in your life is going to be perfect and stress isn't going to come your way, but there is something about the Sabbath. There's something about spending that quality time with the Lord. I guess that's why it says in the commandment, and the Lord blessed the Sabbath day. Did it say he blessed the first day? The second day? So if I keep a different day other than the Sabbath, can I still get that blessing? I don't think so. And beloved, this little horn power, like I stressed, the fourth commandment, the Sabbath commandment, wasn't the only commandment they changed. They completely took the second out, and they took the 10th and split it in half. Google the Catholic Catechism. Go to their book, the Catholic Catechism, and look at their commandments. It will blow you away. In the Bible, the Sabbath commandment is the 4th one. In the Catechism, it's the 3rd. Why? Because they took the 2nd one out. Thou shalt not make it to the any graven images. They had to take that out because they got too many images that they bow to, they pray to, they whip themselves to, they crawl on their knees to, all of that. But anyway, beloved, there's a reason why they want you to believe that Seventh-day Adventist is some cult. There's a reason behind it. You don't leave your salvation in any man's hand. Study for yourself, beloved. Study for yourself. Pray and ask God to show you truth, and He will. And He will. There's something about that day. I'm here to tell you. Y'all have a good one.